Today, going to have a very special session today. A lot of changes are coming and coming very rapidly. Things are beginning to move, escalate. It's a time to remove the veil of illusion, Maya, very troublesome, always around, and constantly creates a sense of separation, is always around. Wherever light comes, the illusion also is around the light. So today, therefore, we thought let's have a very different session today where we'll do some sharing because the time has come for all of us to step out of this veil behind which we've been hiding, though we've been in plain sight, but we've not been visible. And I remember last time Swami Alyananda had spoken about the cloak of love, or the cloak of illusion, which creates delusion. We're going to share some insights, experiences today, and would request Sentooran to start the proceedings today. Sentooran is from London. Most of you, almost everyone knows him. And he has been here in Kailasa for the last, I think, 9 days or something. And tomorrow he leaves. And so, therefore, uh, he's going to start the proceedings today. And he's going to share with all of us what he has been experiencing over these 9 days. So let's start with that, and we will constantly be in a conversation. And then I hope today's conversation is going to pick up a lot of things that all of you are already experiencing. So, with that, I'm requesting Santuran to join in now and take it from here.
My experience has been that this is a training ground in awareness. Everything that happens here is done with complete awareness, whether it's the seemingly mundane tasks of cooking, cleaning, doing the daily chores, all the way up to discussions on the highest truth. It's all about awareness. That's what we're really here to receive if we're open to that possibility. Um, my experience has been that the master and his disciples reflect back at you what you are seeking, um, and what you are looking for. So if you are ready to learn, to grow, to be shown your limitations, what you're holding on to, then you receive that. And it's the most precious gift that you can be given. If you treat it as a holiday home, um, then that's all you get as well. So really, it's up to us. Um, the intention that we put out is what we get back, because this is a place of instant manifestation. We've seen that in numerous incidents over the last week or so that I've been here. But it also happens in very subtle ways. I say that because the master will never force you to accept or believe in what he tells you. He will show you, he will give you the example, and then he will leave it to you It's up to us ultimately. If we're willing to accept, we take it and we learn from it. If we don't accept it, it has no effect on him. The master only gives. So that has been my experience. And we live here. I participated in all the sort of daily activities. And that has been a real lesson because we are taught to be aware at all times in every single situation. It's not just when you sit down for meditation or when you're invited to a discussion. It's in every activity. Even during the leisure, you have to be aware. I've shared this already, but I found one of the most testing periods was actually to be aware whilst we were watching a sports match because the mind wants to relax, the mind wants to switch off. But there's no off button for awareness. It's constantly on. And that's the real test. It is a challenge, actually, a very beneficial challenge, but it is nevertheless challenging because we all like to have our spaces where we can relax and where we can take a break and where we can just not have to engage with the inner work. But obviously, when you're here, there's no space for that. You're constantly around the master and his disciples. So you have to be aware at all times. You have to be completely aligned. Um, so that's been a great lesson. I'll pause there, um, but happy to go into it further. I'm sure others have similar experiences as well.
So, Sentooran, what makes it tough being here? What's the challenge?
The challenge is to always be aware. And that challenge is really the lesson that we've come to learn. So I'm very grateful for it. There is also the challenge of the illusion. So I wanted to just share some observations that I had. You see, the master is so accessible to us during the day. He interacts quite freely with us and he gets involved in all the daily activities. And that's a big test because it forces you to be vigilant and to always remember who you are and who the master is. This is the jnana that you've spoken about, that we always have to keep with us. It's like the sword that we carry with us, and we have to cut through this veil of illusion. So that's a great challenge because the mind wants to reduce all of the experience to what it can understand or what it can comprehend. It wants to limit what we're receiving to that which is ordinary, that which is mundane. But through all of those activities, the presence and the light of awareness is shining brightly. So that's what we have to focus on. So that's a great challenge. The other area that we have to negotiate is the energy is very high. I can say that actually having attended these satsangs in person here, the energy is even more heightened than it is, sitting behind a laptop in the UK. The energy still comes through. Let me be very clear, but it's a very different experience here. So the energy is extremely high, and we have to have the stability to be able to manage that, to be able to balance that within ourselves. Otherwise, the highs are extremely high, but the lows are very low as well. And this is the importance of the jnana. The jnana regulates the energy. It brings awareness to the energy so that the energy is directed purposefully, constructively for our growth. Otherwise, the energy, if it's not directed properly, we can get caught up in it, we can get lost in it. So the jnana brings that clarity. So I've spoken about the proximity, spoken about the energy.
Can you give us an example, Santuran, about how
Yeah.
how this really happens and how that delusion can come in if you're not aware with that jnana?
So I'll give the example of the sports match because I think that is what kind of sticks out to me. So just for context, over the weekend, after we'd had sort of lunch, um, I'd finished doing the dishes, which was the task that I'd been assigned. And I was pretty tired actually. And then I was called to join watching in a cricket match that was happening. And I was sitting next to the master, and I just wanted to, my mind was just ready to revert back to its old patterns. But then you appreciate you're sitting next to the master and you kind of need to keep it together. So I was so aware during that whole match. And also then the adverts come on and, the same adverts that are repeating every single time, after every few overs. And then you have to be aware whilst the adverts are going on, not to let them affect you, not to get carried away with them, not to start daydreaming and, you know, going somewhere else in your head. So you have to be aware all the time. And so that was the example of awareness. Maybe the example in terms of receiving feedback, not getting carried away when we're eating or getting ready for the meal. We have to do various tasks, cooking the food and cleaning and so on. And everything here is done with complete awareness and in a sustainable way. So that means that there's no wastage of utensils, there's no wastage of water, there's no wastage of time, there's no wastage of anything. Um, and that was a very different experience for me. And on the first day, I was getting told left, right, and center, everything that I should be doing. And, at that point, we all have a choice, basically. There's a split second between when we get the feedback and when we respond to it, we have a choice. Do we accept it for our growth, or do we reject it, basically? I won't elaborate on what you might say if you reject it, right? But you have a choice. If you accept, everything goes your way, as in it works out for your highest good. So I just accepted it. Um, I mean, frankly, I have a lot to learn in that department anyway, so I just accepted it. And what I found then is that the ego doesn't start uh, playing up. It doesn't start its usual stories. If you don't accept it, then you kind of get caught in a spiral. I can see how that might happen. And the challenge is that there's nowhere that you can hide here because you're constantly in the presence of the master. So if you do go down that route, you have to live with it and be reminded of it all the time. Those are some of the experiences that come to me right now.
Why do you think being aware all the time is so essential? What is it that awareness has helped you to, why so much focus on it?
I think what I've learned here um, during the course of the discussions that we've had, but also the practical demonstrations that we've received in all the daily activities and tasks, is that really everything comes down to awareness. A big lesson for me is that awareness doesn't separate between the material and the spiritual. Awareness is just awareness. And the same awareness that we use to go within is the awareness with which we have to, play the game of life in our daily activities. So everything actually comes down to awareness. All of our limitations, if we are aware of them, we can deal with them. Um, when the ego rises, if we are aware and we see it, then we can address it. Everything comes down to awareness. It's really what we're all striving towards, whether we realize it or not. It's the foundation, really. I mean, if you actually look at all the spiritual paths and all the practices, they are working towards this culmination of complete awareness. Because, awareness is the foundation of love. I mean, love is oneness, and we have to be aware of that oneness. Awareness, love, these are all different facets of this diamond of consciousness.
So, what is it that sabotages this awareness? What is this robber that robs us from our awareness?
So, in my understanding, it's basically the mind. And to be more specific, it's the identification with the mind. The mind itself is, a necessary agent for living in this body and engaging with the world. But the identification with the mind, basically the root issue, because the mind itself is derived from the ego. So that's why it's the trap. Because, and also the mind is basically a veiling of awareness. So I can relate from my experience that whenever you're stuck in the mind, you are not aware of the fact that you are awareness. You identify with your thoughts, you identify with your feelings, and then you basically get trapped in your own illusion, the illusion that you're making for yourself. Actually, when you become aware, you start seeing how everything is just a projection of the mind. And that's important when you're here because you have to see events and situations clearly as they are, not how you think they are, which is very different. So being here, I've learned how we're just constantly projecting the whole time. Like if we are operating from the mind, that's all that's happening, and that's creating your world. Um, all the judgments that we have about people, actually, they're all just projections of how we feel about ourselves. And so if we are operating from the mind, we are constantly trapped in that. So the mind is, to me, the biggest obstacle. What I've experienced here is that awareness is always there. So we have the ability to step out of the mind if we are conscious uh, and if we make that resolve to do we don't have to condemn ourselves to the mind. If we are clear, we can just step out of it completely. That's always available to us. It's just how much we allow the mind to hold its grip over us. And I think really everything that we're being taught is to break free from the mind. It's not another construct of the mind to get out of the mind. It's not another destination that is separate from us. We just have to wake up, basically, wake up into awareness. And
So, what's been your experience today? I think you're completing 9 days here. Did your mind trouble you, or were you able to hold on to your awareness through the day?
so, in my experience, there were always times when the mind would, you know, make noise. I think if you're aware and if you see that, then it doesn't affect you. So you immediately recognize, okay, the mind is making noise again, come back to awareness, and then it subsides by itself. So actually, that was the real training. It's not that the mind just suddenly stops as soon as you walk through the doors, and then it never disturbs you again. The mind continues, but when you are aware, it no longer veils you anymore. It doesn't have the same grip over you that it might do otherwise. So it all comes down to awareness. And that was the lesson that was just coming through all the time. So just, you just keep with it, really. You just stay with it. And also, the environment here forces you to be aware. It helps you because you don't have any other choice, really. I mean, you're sitting right next to the fire the whole time. So you have to stay vigilant. But it was great fun. I mean, it's been extremely, there's been so much joy and so much love. So I wouldn't want anyone to think that it's just, like a boot camp the whole time. It's not like that. It's everything is done with love. And I also know I got cut a fair bit of slack because it was quite a new experience for me. So um, I'm very grateful for that. But it all comes from love. But as I said, love is not separate from awareness, in my perspective.
So, what you're really saying is that the real reason that we are holding on to the awareness is to be alert that the mind doesn't come in and create its projections and stories and hijack us somewhere else. And we remain focused on this path of experiencing who we truly are. And as you said, awareness is the other name for love, because on the other side of the mind is awareness. And when we are aware fully, is then when we truly experience that unconditional love, which is the love that we have all been waiting for, the love of Krishna, the love of Jesus, right? Because the love that the mind holds is a projection based love, is a touchy feely love. There are likes and dislikes in that love. The love that we are talking about, the age of love and light that we are talking about, the love that Jesus is talking about, the love that Krishna talked about, the love that Sai Baba talked about, is the love that comes when we transcend the heaviness of this mind. And that comes when we are completely aware, when we are in the present moment and in the awareness. So that's why we are practicing to be aware at all times. Is my paraphrasing correct, Santuru?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And my experience of love is oneness. That oneness is already there. You just have to see it clearly. It's not something that you have to project, or it's not something that you have to visualize and bring into existence. It's already there. You just have to see it. So if you are aware, you just see it clearly. You just see the oneness as it is already. And that's how the love manifests, and that's how it experiences. That's how you re experience it. yeah, I think the awareness is really the foundation, and everything emerges from that. As I said, being here, we get taught that awareness is constant and it's integrated, which means that it doesn't make distinctions between what's material and what's spiritual. And that's the big lesson.
See, all sorts of distinctions between the material and the spiritual is all a categorization and labeling of the mind.
Yeah,
Because life is, consciousness is, we are. There are no separations. This is just for convenience. Mind is so clever. It keeps cloaking things. You remember we started off with this cloak of illusion. This is the cloak where we say, but this is material and this is spiritual. And and that's the reason why this whole training to be aware at all times, because awareness is your truth. Awareness is your ticket to consciousness, to God, to your own self, whatever word you want to give it. And you don't need scriptures, you don't need to go to healers, you don't need to run to, therapists. All you need to do is to bring your awareness to this whole world of oneness, one consciousness, this love. These are three words I've used, which is coming from my mind, but I'm trying to express the same thing using three different, ways. But basically, this is, we've been hijacked. We have been cheated, very badly cheated in this world, because we have been told this is the material and this spiritual is for the people who are defeatists, who have nothing else to do, who are mad, who have lost it, and so on. But it's the material. But we are saying life is, and to really figure out and experience that love, that joy, that oneness, that lightness, that spontaneity, that effortless flow of love, the synchronicities, you can attract anything. And you have experienced almost that we could attract anything that we want. Because why? We are so aware that in we become one with, we lose our separate individual identity, and we just become part of that one consciousness. And that one consciousness can be labeled by the people of the world by many names. My master Sathya Sai Baba used to say this: you pray to Jesus, you pray to Krishna, you pray to Allah, you pray to Rama, you pray to Sathya Sai Baba, all prayers reach me. What did he mean? He meant that there is only one God. Who is this God? It's not a person, it's consciousness. Everything ultimately is oneness. It reaches that oneness. A lot of you tell me and share with me that, you come in my dreams, whatever, whenever I pray to you, it starts happening, it starts manifesting. I am also just a name. To whichever name you're going to pray to, you can call consciousness by any name, by God, by Rama, by Jesus. It will respond. Even if you don't call it any name, you feel it in your heart, it will still respond. Because in consciousness, there is no separation. We have created separation, that my guru is better than yours, your guru is lesser than the other fellows, and that god is better and this god is lesser, and this god, we have created this. But there is nothing. And and when a lot of you tell me that, whatever you are thinking, I know about it, uh, I'm able to manifest things, I must tell you this trick: I don't do anything. I remain merged with this consciousness. And by being there, I'm not separate from that all pervasive reality. There is nothing else. There is no trick. There is no. Please, I want you, all of you, to understand. There is no hocus pocus. You do not have to read texts. You do not have to create interpretations. You do not have to run halfway around the world to try and figure things out. You just need to be aware of the laws of this universe. And the law is that there is one unbroken chain of consciousness. It exists everywhere. Mind creates separation. If you are aware, you come and merge with this consciousness. All chatter, all stories, all heaviness, all aches and pains in your body, all your labeling just ends. And when you walk in here, and I really like he wrote today a you know, two-pager of his experiences here, and I'd really request him to share that. But you shared an introduction of what in his experience what Kailasa is. Why don't you share that, Santooran?
What came to me is that this is an energetic kingdom of awareness. When you stand at the gates, the only requirement to enter is that you let go of your limitations, your perception of yourself as an individual, and you be aware. Then you enter the kingdom. But if you don't accept, then you don't really experience that, even if you are physically here. Because as I said at the beginning, you get back what you got out. You receive what you are seeking. And I should say, I mean, this has also been shared by the master, but this is the highest school of unlearning. Even beyond the categories of material and spiritual, we all have our likes and dislikes, and all of those will get shattered. So that's Kailasa for me. It's that place of the highest non-dual awareness. And you connect to it energetically. It's not just about being here physically.
So, would it be fair, Santooran, if I were to say the answer to the question, who am I? If you could say that I am an aware being, will that be the truth?
Yeah, from my perspective, and I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's not for me to tell you, but yes, I would, I would agree. I think that's been my experience as well. Yeah.
And would you, if you were to dwell on this, isn't that what all the masters have been saying? That Sat Chit Ananda, Sat is the truth of who you are, Chit is the awareness of this truth, and that brings you in the state of Ananda or joy. So, if we are aware all the time, then we are aware of the expanded state of one consciousness, and that is the source of joy. I am an aware being. I'm aware of whom I am, and I'm not the mind. And when I remain in that state, I'm one with Jesus. I'm one with love. And the only one that is constantly taking us from our true state, the mind. And more specifically, it's the ego. In fact, he asked me yesterday. We had a very beautiful session. We've been. I want to also say here, I've had the best time having him here with me, having him and Richa here. We've had some fantastic conversations. We went so deep, and these conversations were so amazing because we touched every facet of the mind. We went through every level that had to go, we had to go through. And so he told me, he said, I see this ego in action. I see this. What is ego? Ego is lack of acceptance, because he said the key really is acceptance. The one who accepts is the one who is aware. But the one who resists, the one who fights, the one who does not accept is the one who is caught in the ego, who's always finding faults with everyone else. It's the ego which does not. I see this with so many people who come to me. They're happy with me as long as I'm telling them, good things about them. They really adore me. They really love me. But something happens to them the minute I start to tell them where they are lacking their awareness, where, and I see them stiffen. I see the facial muscles start to tighten. I see them switching off. I see them running a million miles away from me energetically while they are physically sitting next to me. They switch off because it is no longer convenient for the ego to listen to something that it is not willing to accept. And on the contrary, I must say that there are people like Sentooran who come, who are so aware that they are going to squeeze every ounce of the knowledge that the master has, and are so focused that they will accept everything because they've understood that acceptance is the key. And so, therefore, they do not waste a minute in trying to resist or trying to apply their own little mind that which is full of ego, and they instantly start experiencing that connection with that one consciousness, that oneness. And he asked me, he says, this ego, I have seen it in action. I've seen it in the stay here. I see it everywhere. Why don't you talk more about ego? Isn't that what you were saying, Santhuran? Would you like to say it in your own style?
It just occurred to me that that is the primal resistance that we have. That's really what stops us from ascending to our truth. We have this attachment to this individual persona, and through that attachment, we don't accept any criticism of it, any feedback of the limitations that it holds. And if only we could overcome that, we would then step into this virtuous circle of awareness, acceptance, and release. And once you get into that circle, you just keep moving upwards and upwards because everything that is not you, you get rid of. That makes you more aware. You see any other limitations that you're holding more clearly, you get rid of them, and the circle just repeats and repeats. And so then you're on a positive trajectory. The only block to that is when your ego gets in the way. And then you get caught up in this spiral of deflecting blame, not taking accountability, um, finding external causes for your predicament rather than accepting that they're coming from within you. And as you've said before, you become completely powerless in that situation. You're then a hostage of your external environment, and there's nothing that you can do to change that if you believe all of that. This ego is really what stands in the way between our current perception of ourselves and who we truly are, and the realization of that. And I think it also then requires great clarity about what the goal is and what you're seeking from the master. We discussed this during the week that we're here for growth, not for validation. And if that's clear and your goal is only to know who you truly are, then your ego becomes secondary. It's not even relevant. You're here to get the wisdom, so just grab it. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you. It doesn't matter what, frankly, even you think about yourself. Just absorb it. It becomes very simple when you have that clarity about what the goal is. And the master will always encourage you when it's needed and give you that confidence. And everything that you receive is from love anyway. And if it's difficult, that's part of the process. That's actually how we mature. Really, I mean, difficulty, what is difficulty? Difficulty is a reaction of the mind to an experience that we have not yet trained ourselves with how to deal with. So you just put that aside, and if you're clear about what your goal is and you have that focus, then ego becomes irrelevant.
And you asked me the question about what can we do about this ego. And he said that there are so many of your teachings, but why don't you put more focus on ego? The very nature of ego is such, because ego's other name is Maya or delusion. This samsara, this world was created with this delusionary aspect. The presence of this is so essential part of this game of life, and that the beauty about ego slash Maya is that its presence is never known. So you can do something about what you can recognize, what you don't even know that you have, and is always with you and can come anytime, is what is this ego. Only after getting caught in it do you get to know that you have become a victim of this ego. That's the beauty of this. However, if you're alert, remember it all goes back to awareness. If you are alert, you will recognize that you are being pulled by this ego, because you will start reacting. You will instantly start to feel inside you something rising. and you know you are being caught in it. Those are the early signs. If you can remind yourself who you truly are, that I am, and who the master is, that one consciousness, you can be rescued before you get caught in it. Because once you get into the trap of ego, and there are many on our group, everybody has gone through those traps and everybody has got caught. And how it pulls you, it sucks the air out of you, it wrenches your gut, and it will put you upside down. And actually, I've seen the more we come closer to realizing our truth, the more it attacks you. It's almost like that snakes and ladder game. Almost when you're close to liberation is where it catches you and you come down. Because we see the progress, we start feeling good about ourselves, we start feeling highly aware. We don't realize that the test is right next on the next corner, and something is going to come up and is going to uh, you know test us. Where have we reached? How far have we controlled ourselves in this game of the mind and being in our awareness? And then when we fall very hard. But that's how we learn. That's how we learn that how tricky it is, that this Maya is. So, if we are aware, that's why we are training everybody to be aware at all times, from the mundane to the profound, from the little to the expansive. All we need is to hold on to our awareness. Because in that awareness lies the truth of the consciousness. And the consciousness has the knowledge and wisdom of all the sacred books that have ever been written and will be written in future. It has the teachings of all the masters that have been on this planet and that are on this planet and that will come on this planet. When you're operating from your mind, you need memory to remember things because you have learned them somewhere. But when you are aware, then you're reading the book of life. Then you know the highest wisdom and all the truth. And you're also aware of what's happening in everybody's minds. Because remember, there is that white screen which projects everything, on which everything is seen. And have faced on hundreds of occasions when people come to me to learn something what is convenient to them. And then they tell me, you're not aware of what I'm going through. And they try to tell me what their ego is wanting to share. The conditionalities. Remember, conditionality. Creating conditionalities is a virtue of the mind, and mind excels in that. Mind does not like acceptance. Acceptance is a trait of the one who surrendered to not a person, but surrendered to the higher self. The one who is willing to unlearn and the one who is open will get the gift of authenticity. The one who is ready to let go of every idea of one's own existence. Sentooran said this Kailasa is the highest school of unlearning. Because that's what we are struggling with. Learning is ego, knowing is ego. I don't know. The one who can come with I don't know and wants to keep all one's wisdom and knowledge and accomplishments aside, and titles and whatever else we have accomplished in life, only that one can become one with that pure consciousness. And that requires taking responsibility for yourselves. It requires courage to say, I will do what it takes to be present at all times in the truth of my I am presence. Which, in very simple words, you can just say acceptance. I accept. Instead of resisting and fighting, we are just picking up because remember, it's an experiential path. When you accept what you experience, is what Santooran is trying to say. Because you come here to experience, but everybody comes with their own half hearted. But the one who comes with this complete surrender gets the insights, gets the understanding of the highest truth. So, Santuran, why don't you share with us some of this understanding you've carried, you've got now, what awareness truly is, the various aspects of awareness as you saw them.
I mean, awareness is everything. There's no experience of anything without awareness. So it's absolutely fundamental. Really, just being here and through the training and all of the lessons, you're just getting constantly reminded and hammered when needed to get back to awareness. So it's like a light that is always on. Everything about your perception of yourself actually appears in awareness. So when you see it like that, it loses its power to affect you. And that's really where all of our suffering comes from. It's not from the events themselves, it's from our reactions to them or how we choose to respond to them. But we only do that because we're not really aware of who we are and what's happening at that time. So my experience here has just been to be aware. But once you step into it and once you experience the lightness of it, can't undo that. You don't ever voluntarily go back to the mind. As you were saying, the milk, once it gets churned into butter, it never goes back. Once that awareness is lit, it just stays with you. And obviously, we can grow in awareness. We can become more aware. Our awareness can become, sharpened and it can get heightened. But basic shift from being stuck in the mind to being aware, that's been the primary experience of this visit. Actually, during the satsang last week, I had an experience where I felt the mind was like a dense cloud. And you're in this aeroplane. When you make that conscious resolve to break free from the mind, the aeroplane just rises. And it just rises into this clear sky above all the clouds. And you feel so free, so light, and everything is just coming to you. From my perspective, that's awareness. And that experience has basically led to the shift. You never go back.
Would you like to share, in the document that you wrote of your understanding of awareness, you
Yeah.
saw awareness as, you know, how you were looking at every facet of awareness. Would you like to share some of those?
The first reflection that I had is that awareness is primary and is absolute. So everything that we experience is not possible without awareness. And that awareness is one. So when we recognize that, That's the experience of love. And then love expresses itself spontaneously as service. So these highest ideals of love and service are founded in awareness. I mean, there's no experience of the universe without awareness. It's very simple. So that's why awareness is uh, primary and it's absolute because all the changes that we experience happen within awareness, but awareness itself remains unchanged. So that was the first
And that,
reflection.
Sentooran, I might just add,
Yeah.
was what Shankaracharya said so beautifully, where he said, Brahm Satya Jagat Mithya. That Brahman, the absolute reality, is actually the consciousness, it's your awareness. Whereas Jagat, which is the world, which is the projection of the mind, is illusory. Actually, this world, as the world that we are participating in and suffering and enjoying, is actually a creation of our mind, where there are ups and downs, where there are peaks and troughs, where there is these experiences where we are caught, and where all the fights are happening right now, and where the destruction is taking place. But the reality is Brahman, the absolute consciousness, which is found only in our awareness. And there is spontaneity, there is synchronicity, there is effortlessness, and there it is just manifestation of this pure love. And that is what we have come to experience. And that is the age we are going into. And that is where we need to let go of this mind. I'm telling you, all of you, there is no entry into the world we are all about to enter if we are still holding on to this mind. Because this is the world of awareness. So, go on. That was your point number one.
So then the next reflection was that awareness is constant and it's integrated. So we spoke about that already in that it doesn't differentiate between these various categories of material, spiritual, internal, external, ordinary, extraordinary, and so on. Those are all just judgments made by the mind. And as you said, the awareness with which we cut, cook, and clean in our daily life, it's that same awareness that you know cuts, cooks, and cleans within ourselves as well. It's one awareness. It's just what we direct it to. Um, and the truth is that there is no situation that isn't extraordinary because every situation is arising from consciousness. It's an expression of its infinite potential. So when we bring our awareness to it, we see the depth that's behind it. And that's our responsibility.
Absolutely. And this is where, if I may add, we said that the words of the master may sound very simple, like love all, serve all. But there are layers and layers and layers within this simple message. And which is what now you found out. People thought if you love all, then you should serve all, and you should go and help the needy, to give them food, to give them medical aid, and whatever help you can provide them. Right? That's one a very gross understanding of what the master has said. That if you really love all, then express it by doing service. But what you just said is the highest understanding of that expression. What is love? And what is service? And you reach that level of understanding that you are not this body mind duo, but you are that infinite possible potential of consciousness. When you rise to that level, then the love that comes out of you is the true service that you've come to provide. When your understanding is not limited by what this mind has fed into you or the world has fed into you. And that's why I say what's coming is not artificial intelligence. What's coming is divine intelligence. When all of us have transcended this mind into pure consciousness, look what is going to come, what we are going to create, because it will not suffer from the limitations of the mind and its interpretations. Imagine the reality that is knocking on our doors, that we are about to enter, but only those who will be able to deal with this will be able to realize what this is about, and to know that they are carrying a baggage which does not allow them entry. If if you are if you're able to pick that up and you're able to drop this baggage which is just causing you unnecessary sorrow, then you can truly move into that world of awareness and the infinite possibilities of that awareness. Go on.
So the next reflection was that awareness is attributeless. And that was really important for me because our goal here is to be nothing. All descriptions, all definitions, all qualifications are a limitation. It's not about becoming anything. Even to identify with the most elevated description of oneself is bondage. So awareness is attributeless. There's nothing that can define it. And that's what we're striving towards. Everything else is just an ego trap. And it's in that nothingness that we experience fullness. But you have to relinquish the ego for that fullness to come through. We have this conception that when we say awareness is infinite, that it's extremely vast, and we objectify it as though it's larger than anything that we can imagine. But in my experience, awareness is infinite because it's beyond any measure of dimensions. It's dimensionless. So that's what we're working towards. Being is lost in becoming.
And again, Shankaracharya in Nirvana Shatakam put this so beautifully. He said, Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo vibhurvyapta sarvatra sarvendriyanam sadame samatvam na muktir na banda chidananda rupam shivoham shivoham. That is the real understanding of who we truly are, the attributeless, the formless, all pervasive consciousness, or that reality which is everywhere within us, and therefore by virtue of that in everything that exists, that is that is the truth. And And you have said, you've made that connection that awareness is that. So when the awareness is coming from the mundane, and that's why we have been focusing here, that you start building your awareness from the mundane. Because mundane is life. Because life is in this present moment and it is most routine, it's mundane. It is something that you're doing again and again. So where is reality? It's not in the future. Awareness is not in the future. Awareness is here and now in this moment. And life is only a collection of these moments, millions and millions of moments. So if we can just be aware in this moment, right now, here, we're part of that consciousness already. Go ahead. Thank you.
So the next reflection is that awareness is beyond paradigms. As I said before, this is the highest school of unlearning. So every conception, every paradigm that you hold will get broken, will get shattered. And that's only to show you that these are concepts that you're holding in your mind. And when you are identified with the mind, those concepts, those impulses, they veil your perspective. But when you become aware, it's like you're standing on top of the mountain, and all of those concepts that used to bind you, they become vanishingly small. You just see them as specks in your awareness, and you can discard them at will. So the awareness is beyond all notions of duality, man-made rules. The truth is that we're projecting those. We respect the laws of this dimension, but they don't define us. So awareness is beyond all of that.
And you know why is that? Because mind is petty, mind is separation. Because mind is built on the whole idea of duality and separation. Whereas awareness is built on the all expansive consciousness. So you see, and this is what it is. So consciousness, awareness is zooming out, whereas mind is zooming in. And when you zoom in, you go into separateness, and when you zoom out, you go into the all pervading consciousness. That's it. So this is uh, the the mind sees itself as an individual droplet of water, whereas the consciousness sees itself as the ocean or as the sea. So that is the difference. And as long as we continue to hold on to this petty definition of our own selves, which is constantly projected and reinforced by the mind, that's the reason we are stuck in this paradigm. And so, therefore, these paradigms have to be shattered. And the easiest way of shattering it is to know that all these paradigms are self constructed by the mind, they do not exist in reality. And as you identify yourself with the universal, in that instant, all the paradigms can just fall off because they no longer have any edifice or foundation on which they can stand. Instead of trying to break all the paradigms one by one, it can be a very exhausting task and it can take you lifetimes. But you can shatter all of them in one go with one massive stroke of this sword of jnana, as you say, right? The one that does exists because of the mind can be just cut through with the sword of jnana, the sword of wisdom.
The next reflection was that in awareness, life just flows, and it flows effortlessly. And that was a big lesson for me, actually observing the master and his disciples, how they just flow. I think when you live life from the mind, it's just a series of knots. You're just getting tossed about all the time, like a cork in a bottle on the ocean. You're just constantly being thrown around. When you operate from awareness, every thought, every word, every action becomes purposeful. There's a synchronicity with everything around you, and it just comes from being aware. You know exactly what to do, when to do it. You do it now, and you do it right the first time. And then there's no baggage, there's no burden, there's no strain, there's no fatigue, there's no stress. That all just comes from the mind. So that's been a big lesson. And all of us can do it. We just have to be aware. The next reflection was that awareness transcends the mind and the ego. And I think we've spoken about that already. The next reflection is that awareness is wisdom and not knowledge. So during the week, we had this discussion about what the meaning of I do not know is. The conclusion we came to is that the thought I know is a trap, because behind that thought is the ego, is the false individual identity. And so the thought I know is how that ego perpetuates itself. The meditation I do not know is the release to that. And as I've sort of reflected on, it's not about how much knowledge we have or don't have. It's about bringing an end to the mind altogether, because the mind arises with the feeling of I know. So when we meditate on this aphorism, I do not know, the mind collapses and there's an emptiness that emerges. And in that emptiness, we experience awareness. So awareness is the source of all knowledge, but it's not knowledge itself. And I think that's a very important distinction to make, because otherwise we trap ourselves in acquiring more concepts, more definitions, reading endlessly. And there's nothing wrong with reading, but the point is that we're here to experience awareness and not simply to collect knowledge. And the final reflection is that awareness is silent. And it's really in silence that we experience awareness. And that's not just silence of words, it's silence of the mind. And that silence is the highest teaching, and it's the final teaching. And that's what we have to be ready for. And that's what we're being prepared for now. But that silence is everything. And in that silence, we find what we've always been looking for, which is awareness. And that's ourselves. After having come through all of these reflections, the overall conclusion is that awareness just is. I am is the highest truth. Everything else is derived from that. Everything else is just a qualification of that. The awareness that I am. There is nothingness and there is fullness. It's everything. and nothing. Yeah, those were all of the reflections that I had written down. The truth is that, as I was sharing earlier, there's nothing really that can be written down to capture the richness of the experience itself. So there's so much that has been said, but there's far more that remains unsaid, only experienced.
Would you like to just, in the end, share your experience about the day we were sitting outside and trying to do a recording with all this traffic going through?
So that was a great lesson for me in being aware. So, for context, we were sitting outside in the driveway and we were recording a discussion that was taking place. And the master was holding the mobile phone which we were recording. And as he was speaking, every time he heard a motorbike or a car that was approaching the driveway, even from 100 yards away, he would stop, pause the mobile, let the vehicle pass, and then continue midstream, mid sentence, mid train of thought. And that for me was a live demonstration in what it takes to be aware, how awareness permeates and pervades every single aspect of life. So that was incredibly profound, actually. That was the experience. And there have been so many other experiences like that. And I'm sure many others in the group can also attest to that. There was one evening when we had to drive to a nearby village, and I was sitting in the passenger seat, and the master was driving, and we were basically flying. I was in a daze, uh, and at the same time, he was talking with us and changing the music that we were playing, and yeah, it was incredible to experience that awareness. And obviously, we got there well before the time that the GPS indicated. So I was kind of blown away. But this is awareness. It was completely effortless as well. And it's not easy driving around here. The roads are quite winding. You have to constantly be alert because a car can just come out from around the corner. But it was a total lesson in being aware. There were numerous such instances like that.
So, the moral of the story is awareness is all that this life is about. We're already whole and complete. The only thing that is incomplete is our awareness. And as soon as we become aware, we start experiencing the oneness of creation. What robs us from that experience is this mind slash ego. And the only way to move away from it is to start practicing your awareness in this present moment. And for that, you need complete openness and acceptance and the willingness to be able to start practicing this vigil of being aware in every little thing that you do. And once you're aware, as you rightly said, you cannot become unaware. Once the milk has been churned and the butter has been formed, the butter can do whatever, it can never become milk again. And so this whoever comes here, whoever is going to be part of what's coming in, is going to be churned, because without churning, you're not going to be in this awareness. That's all that we need to go through. And then once the butter is formed, once the awareness is there, it is just pure, spontaneous, effortless flow of love. This does not require, he asked me another question. He said, you're in plain sight of all of us, and you're giving us such profound wisdom so effortlessly. But there is so much of Maya around you. What did you say, Sentooran? Would you?
Because the master is so accessible, so available, we limit our perception of the master to our own self projection. We don't realize that he is interacting at our level only to elevate us to where we are striving to reach. And also, we don't appreciate that what we perceive through our five senses is really just a fraction that infinite potential is. It's always the case whenever you have to engage with a name and form. That's the price you pay for that interaction. You don't get that interaction without the illusion that you limit it to what you conceive of yourself and what you perceive yourself to be. And also, as I said before, the energetic experiences are so strong, but we have to ask ourselves, where are they coming from? A lot more that's happening here than even we can appreciate. And as you said, it's only the aware who can appreciate events as they happen in the present. The unaware require hindsight because they're trapped in the mind. So beyond the superficial circumstances of, you stay in Kailasa, you participate in the daily activities, there's this light of awareness which is shining from the depths of that ocean. And that's really what it's all about. Everything else is just a play of the game. So if we limit our experience just to what we perceive through the five senses, then we are trapped in that illusion. There's no formality here. So there are no symbols or there are no cues for being aware. You have to be aware by yourself. It has to come from within. The absence of formality isn't because the master is just like any of us. It's because he is free from all limitations and he's deliberately trying to break all of those limitations all the time. We spoke about Dattatreya and how he was a complete outsider of the system. He was an avaduta. He was a free being. No one really understood him, but only those who approached him knew what he stood for. And he would test them. He would put all of their resistances in front of them from the outset and learn from him. And he could take them all the way there. So it was my experience that there are very strong parallels here. So the Maya is around us always. But that's the price we pay for access to the master. We have to go by the experience and not by our perceptions, because the experience is undeniable and the perceptions are finite. The truth is that really the master is only a project. Else it's coming from us. It's coming from our own beliefs and our own conceptions. If we break all of those, we just see experience as it is. And then we reap the full benefits of this opportunity.
Thank you, Sentooran. And now you know where my hair went. This illusion of always identifying with a certain image of a teacher, of a master. And, when you spoke about the close access that you get to the master, actually, it comes from the only parallel that I can think of is of Jesus Christ. Uh, he actually allowed access to his disciples because he attracted them. They were all chosen by him, and he made himself fully available to them because of the nature of work that had to actually happen, beyond the master's lifetime. So every master has been given certain work that needs to be done. Uh, and some requires a physical veil, a physical mannerisms. It requires a large following. It requires a certain amount of persona that is required. But the work of unlearning, the work of awareness, the work of removing the veil of ignorance is a very intense work. It's not about teachings, it's about the experience, as Santooran said. And it is intense work because losing the mind is intense. And so, therefore, it requires the availability, the eagerness, and the willingness of a master. And the master is always waiting for that willing and eager student who is the seeker. Because, as we say, when the student is ready or the seeker is ready, the master appears. But the question is, are we ready to fully take advantage of this opportunity that is available to us beyond the veils and the temptations of the Maya, and we are able to recognize and experience the truth. The truth of the Master only helps us, encourages us to experience our own truth, because that's all that the Master is, and the whole existence of the Master is only for that. There is no other duty, there is no other job that the Master has, is to let the ones who are ready, the ones who are willing, the ones who are eager to move forward, and all that it separates us from our awareness and from our own experience is our acceptance, is our openness, is our willingness to unlearn and let go. Let go of the very idea of who you are or who you think you are. And as you let go of that, we start experiencing the real joy that we have come here to experience. So, thank you so much, Santooran. I think this was a beautiful conversation. I hope and I pray that everybody who's participated today has experienced something, has gained something out of this. And for once, you were the one who was giving the answers, and I was posing the questions. So I loved this. I loved this way. and and it was really a pleasure having you here. Uh, I, my joy also knew no bounds because we were reveling in the highest understanding of the truth, and these experiences are invaluable. So thank you so much, and lots of love and blessings to you. So thank you so much. And as we end with a prayer, Samast Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samast Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samast Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.